Okay, we've talked about plenum radio cable. We talked about fiber optic cable a little bit. Fiber optic transmits light, not electrical signals. Okay. However, this slide says that glass is the standard media. Typically, it's not anymore. It's just a really, because that's expensive. A lot of times, fiber optic cabling is plastic. It's just a high grade of plastic that will transmit light, similar to the way glass would transmit it. One of the things that you have with fiber optic cable you have to worry about, especially the long distance fiber optic cable, is you cannot have too much of a bend in the cabling, otherwise the glass will either, if it is glass, will become crushed, and the light is not, I mean, if you have a kink essentially in the fiber optic cable, or too much of a bend in the fiber optic cable, the light won't get transferred or transmitted. So you have to worry about that. There are special certifications necessary to be able to install fiber optic cable. It takes additional training. It's not quite as bad as it used to be, but it's still extensive. Okay, I mentioned earlier today there are two types of fiber optic cable that we care about. One is single mode and one is multi-mode. Single mode, this is used for longer distance runs. Okay, know this. Know that if I'm going to go from one town to the other, I'm probably going to use single mode cable, single mode fiber optic cable. Okay, the Metronet connection that we have between South Bend and Plymouth that many businesses in Plymouth are using, which is very, very inexpensive, uses single mode cabling between South Bend and Plymouth. And then if you're going to use cabling within a business, within a building, most of the time you'll use multi-mode cabling. So multi-mode up to 600 meters, single mode beyond that. Sounds not kind of counterintuitive, but just memorize that because you will see it again on your test. This is an outdated slide. Don't really worry about this. You're not going to be asked any questions about this slide because, like I said, it's outdated. The distances and the speeds are way off base. All right, moving on to wireless networks. These are everywhere. We have them in the school. Primarily, this is the method of transmitting between all of these different laptops and computers that are in the school. They're in your homes. Get your feet off my chair. They're in your homes. How many of you have a wireless network in your home? Yeah. I mean, it's a huge. The problem with what's the problem with wireless networks? Yes.
They lose signal going through like walls and stuff.
They can lose signal, especially if you have like a metal wall or anything like that. Jessica? They're less secure. Well, actually, that's not. I mean, for purposes of the test and everything else, they can be less secure. Actually, if you know what you're doing and you have physical access to stuff, qualify that. Why are they less secure?
More so not on the business side of wireless networks, but more so when people set them up by themselves.
Yeah.
Some random person putting them in.
Without paying attention, yep. Because you can't see who's intercepting a signal, right? So you've got the wireless signal that's wherever, within the range of that wireless access point, and you don't know who is intercepting that or whether they can. Austin.
Wireless networks can kind of look for problems, like some of them have already been noted, but one of the biggest ones that they have severe bottleneck and the amount of bandwidth they have. Like this cable, this cable can get like what is it rated at? I don't think here.
Say it's Cat 5.
Cat 5, okay, it's Cat 5, so that's 100 megabits a second. So if you got that going on, well, that box, wherever it is, it's severely limited because you have the one receiver and one kind of back and forth connection. But if you move around, if you get behind something, if I get behind this, if I get, if I put my phone set it either on the receiver or something that can cause interference or call somebody near it. There's
Radio
frequency. There's
yep.
so many different ways that you can totally mess up the connection, and that's
Right.
why she said that this is even more secure, because this one, it's a single path to your
Switch.
yes. Man, I'm so done today. It goes directly to your switch. There's no. It's the difference between whispering to somebody and shouting out in front of a huge crowd of people.
Yeah, so you're definitely on the right track, okay? A typical wireless network, if you can think about, first of all, it doesn't transmit as fast as Cat 5e cable. A gigabit connection for wireless is rare. You can have it, microwave connections that are gigabit connections. But keep in mind, this access point is a shared network. It's capable of 54 megabit per second, I'm guessing. It's a wireless G, and maybe more, maybe an N, which is capable of up to 300 some. I mean, it varies whether it's duplex or not, fully duplex or not. But it's still a shared network. And so everyone is transmitting on this single, think of it like a single wire going back to whatever its connection point is. And so that's a problem. You guys are all competing for the same bandwidth that's available on that wireless access point. Whereas individual wired connections connect back to a switch, and as we talked about before, one of the benefits of a switch is we get unicast connections between the ports. Okay? Unicast connections between the ports. You're not all sharing those ports. So wireless is a great tool, and it makes things very, very convenient. And for homes, it can be set up very easily. You don't have a bunch of, I mean, you can buy a $50 wireless access point at Walmart versus running cables in your house, which is a lot more expensive, a lot more difficult, and most people don't know how to do it properly. So wireless networks are great. However, they can be a security risk, and their performance is nowhere close to a good wired network. What happens if I have multiple wireless access points in a business? Yes?
They're gonna disrupt each other.
They could, unless they're going to disrupt each other, which is what his answer was. However, if you were going to design it, how would you design it? How would you make them work together? Yes? You can bridge them together. How do you normally bridge them together? Well, you can do it as part of the software, yes, and then every one of them varies. But what about the physical layer? What do you do with the physical layer to bridge them together? Josh? You can use them as a wireless repeater. Okay, there's another option. Most use this, yes.
You get VLANs? What's not physical?
Nope.
Class?
Have them what? Well, how are the access points, if you have multiple access points, how are they connected? Wireless bridge, yes. What? Yeah, wiring. If you look at this access point up here, you've got a Cat 5e cable plugged into it. My guess is that Cat 5e cable either goes directly back to a switch, or most likely this Cat 5e cable connects to another wireless access point, so they're both working together. If you are looking for a quality but inexpensive set of wireless access points that have the software built in, they're very flexible, probably for a business, not for a home, then I would suggest that you look at Unify, U-N-I-F-I. So if you're doing something for your business, your farm, where you have long distances and you have to use multiple access points, and you're worried about security, all those kinds of things, you can get these Unify access points, a package of 3 for a couple $100 or a few $100. The nice thing about Unify is that you can connect them together using wired technologies, and they have a great software interface that allows you to set them up. So here's the scenario. We have a company, Mossberg. You guys visited Mossberg. Mossberg went from a wired analog phone system to a voice over IP system, which means in an analog phone system you have a box someplace back in your wiring closet. and all your telephones connect to that box using Cat3 cable, separate from your regular data network. Well, they went from that to a voice over IP system, not only a voice over IP system, but a hosted voice over IP system, which means that all of their telephones are like these Polycoms or Cisco phones, and they do have cables, and they go back to the switch, but there is no box. There's no central box for that because they connect via the internet back to a company that charges them a monthly fee. So one of the features of that telephone system that they bought that we recommended is that instead of having to use a desk phone like that, they could use their wireless or their mobile phone connected to the wireless network with an app on it, so that when their desk phone extension rings, the app rings the phone. And so it's just like answering on a regular phone, but not using like Verizon's minutes or data. Instead, they use their wireless phone, connect to the data network wirelessly, and are able to carry on conversations. The problem with that is these access points, as you guys already pointed out, have distance limitations, have limitations as far as getting through walls and those kinds of things. So what we did was we hooked up all these wireless access points so that you could take your laptop and go from one end of the building to the other end of the building wirelessly without ever dropping your connection. And so that's cool. Nobody takes their laptop, and it's not like they're normally working on their computer as they're walking from one end of the building to the other. However, when we went to the voice over IP system, that was critical because they were able to save $250 per phone by using their mobile phones. They connected to the wireless network, and they're able to carry on a conversation with a client or with a business partner or whoever they're talking to on company business on their cell phones without going against their minutes, and their calls don't get dropped. So knowing how wireless access points, knowing how wireless works is pretty important, especially for businesses. Okay, if I just have a bunch of wireless devices, like your computers are all capable of being wireless devices. Someone has, is that an iPad? Or just, okay, so you've got an iPad, that's a wireless device. Okay, if I just have a bunch of wireless devices, can they communicate with each other wirelessly?
If there's a router.
What? Raise your hand. Yes?
If there's a router.
They don't have to.
No?
Nope. Yes? What's that? They don't have to have a server. Yes? Is that what you said? Go ahead.
Can they use like Bluetooth to a point?
You use Bluetooth. That's a wireless network. Does anybody know what that's called? When you have a bunch. You can do it. First of all, when you have a bunch of individual wireless devices just communicating with each other without having a wireless access point. What is that called? There's a term for that, and it was in your book. No one knows? Yes. Ad hoc network. Know this. Put it in your notes. AD space HOC. Ad hoc network. So basically, ad hoc is not just a wireless term. Ad hoc means it's thrown together. Okay, it's just put together randomly. So an ad hoc network would be in our world, ad hoc network is a wireless network that's just thrown together. If we have an access point or a wireless router, even the wireless router is considered an access point. Don't forget that. That's important. If we have an access point that everyone connects to, basically you go to the SSID that's being advertised for that wireless access point, there is a term for that type of network, wireless network. What is that term? Anyone know? If you don't, you need to know this. I'm almost positive it's in the book. If it's not, you're still going to get tested for it. Yes? Infrastructure network. So 2 types of wireless networks. If they're just thrown together randomly, ad hoc network. If it's connecting to a central access point with an SSID, then it is considered an infrastructure network. INFRA structure network. All right, that is all for today. I will see you Thursday. There will not be a test. I don't know if there was one scheduled or not. There will not be a test on Thursday. Okay, we can shut off the video, please. Maybe a quiz, but not a test.